I just came from watching Sinners, and I got one thing to say: vampires exist. Welcome to New Movie Tuesdays. I'm Matthew Salanoa, and it's Tuesday, and I've seen a new movie, so I'm telling you about it. Let me tell you, there's a reason why I picked Tuesday. It's not because it's my favorite day of the week or anything like that. It's because Tuesday, at least as far as the theaters around me go, is $5. We get $5 movies or half off movies, and my theater was a $5 movie. So, I gotta say, I decided I'm hearing good things about Sinners. I really like Ryan Coogler's work. I've seen Fruitvale Station and the Black Panther movies. I didn't say Creed, but I really enjoyed the other three. I thought Wakanda Forever was next level. And when it comes to Sinners, I gotta say, it was good. You should go see it. That's my dad. That's my dad's review of movies. Anytime he likes a movie, he says, "Hey, Bubba, you see this movie? No, it was good. You should go see it." So that's all I'll say. That's my short review. My short, spoiler-free review is, it was good. You should go see it. Yeah. So it was good. You should see it. That's as spoiler-free as I can get. I would say it's a vampire movie. Vampires are back. Those of you who don't like lots of gore and stuff, there's not that much gore in this movie. There's not enough action. I'll say that. I wanted some more vampire action going on in this movie. But on the whole, I had a really good time. This movie, what this movie feels like is, it feels like the first half of it feels like it's supposed to be the first half of a two-part movie. If you did not like Nosferatu, I think you will like Sinners. I think Nosferatu I really, really thoroughly enjoyed because it was a painting in live action. It was genuine artwork as a movie. And then this movie is also so artful, but it's a movie. So you go into this movie and you feel like you're there. Right from the first shot of this movie, I felt like I'm in the 1930s. I feel like I'm in another time, and the acting is so good. I did not get the cast name, but I did want to shout out some crew member names. I'll get to that soon. But Michael B. Jordan plays twins on this one. He plays a character. One character's name is Smoke. The other's name is Stack. And you kind of get the sense one is good, one is evil, but they're both technically bad guys. So we have these kind of levels of good and evil going on in this movie. And essentially, for those of you who don't know what Sinners is about, our two brothers, no pun intended, our two brothers, Smoke and Stack, twin brothers, have returned to their hometown in rural somewhere. And they've come from Chicago. They've come to their hometown with some money. They served in the war. They got up to some criminal activity of some kind. And they've come back to their hometown with some money, and they want to start a little, I don't know, it's a juke joint, it's some kind of club type of deal. Somewhere people can come, have music, dance, have some good food, kind of a restaurant dance type of deal. And it all gets upended when vampires show up and start eating people. So I want to say, on the whole, for me, I think the hype was a little bit blown up. I think people are praising this movie. I do think the first half of the movie deserves 100% of the praise. And I would say the second half of the movie was really fun. But I felt like the second half of the movie was a little bit more things we kind of seen before and would expect from a vampire movie, which is fine. It's not a point against. I'm not trying to knock down this movie in any way, because I had a good time. But at the same time, there's just some familiar things, like, okay, they're doing this in this movie. But on the whole, I thought really just the setup of this movie, when we're coming back to this little town, and you see the farmland, you're seeing the history and the period, you see people picking cotton, and it's 1930s, and just this, I don't know, this energy and this era, the meeting of the cast. We get Delroy Lindo, who's in there. I really love him from, I've seen him in a few movies in the 90s and 2000s. I can't remember a good chunk of them, but I mostly remember him from The One and Gone in 60 Seconds. And it was just one of those actors. It's like, you can't forget that face. You can't forget that person because he brings something serious to the role that is just, it's remarkable. As small as the role is, as silly as the movie is, there's something about this actor that's just capturing the moment. And to see him in this movie was a real treat. Obviously, Haley Steinfeld was great. The whole cast was great. Wunmu Mosaki, I hope I'm getting that name right. The actress from Loki. And what's the other show? The Lovecraft Country. That actress. She's also in Batman v Superman. She's always great. I saw her pilot episode for a detective show where there's some kind of supernatural thing going on. I forgot what it's called, but she was great in that too. So the whole cast is great. The cinematography is fantastic. The production design. I guess what's great about this movie, the directing is, you see Ryan Coogler getting better as a director with every movie. To start out, like Fruitvale Station was a solid movie. So to start out just really already, you're pretty dang good already. And then to just see him get better and better and better. I do think he's going to be one of those landmark filmmakers we talk about in years' time. And just as a personal note, as someone from San Francisco, California, Ryan Coogler from Oakland, as a Bay Area guy to a Bay Area guy, I got to give you props for making the dream happen. It was my dream to be a film director. Instead, here I am making podcasts, and I have my own story for how I got here, but whatever. I'm here, and I just wanted to give big ups to Ryan Coogler for, he talked about going to see the Metreon, going to see Phantom Menace at the Metreon. Chances are we cross paths. That was my movie theater. That was your movie theater if you were a kid growing up in the 2000s in San Francisco or Oakland. It was just a special place, like this huge new mall type of deal in downtown San Francisco, where there's a movie theater and the PlayStation room where you could play all the different PlayStation games. And it was a real, like, kind of young person oriented place where you could go and have any type of fun. And you had the Where the Wild Things Are on the roof, so even little kids, like families, had somewhere to go. It was a family place, but it was really geared toward the young people who were coming up with PlayStation and wanting to see new movies. And so just to know that this guy went to the same movie theater, grew up in, basically, I mean, I'm not Oakland, I'm San Francisco, but Bay Area dude, you know what I mean? So I'm very proud of Ryan Coogler in the sense that I feel like he's from my home, even though it's like the sister city, because Oakland and San Francisco are sister cities. Just like Gotham and Metropolis and Batman v Superman, who Wunmu is from. So it all comes together. But anyway, I just got to say shout out to that. Yeah, so back to the movie. Yeah, spoiler free as I can get. Look, everyone's trying to have a party. If you've seen the trailer, everyone's trying to have a party. Vampires show up. It becomes less of a party for these people. And it's a good time. I got to say, the build up to the vampires is so deliciously good. I would say in the same way that Nosferatu was such an art piece, I didn't care how it ended. With Sinners, the build-up to the vampires and the build-up of the brothers. Introducing, because we got the introduction of lots of music. We've seen, what I did not expect was the whole music angle of this movie, which actually was a larger part of the movie than I saw coming, because it's not in the trailers. But yeah, I thought, the world building and seeing people and seeing a sense of history and having this kind of, there's a character who seems to have this kind of gift of legend, and we do, I don't want to spoil what he's going to do or what you're going to see. I do think a little bit more was promised than what we got, but at the same time, just the way they made the promise, the way that everything was laid out in the first half of the movie is just so smooth. I think, again, like, it's a marker for how good Ryan Coogler is getting at telling stories. And so, yeah, spoiler for reaction, totally. I think the hype is mostly there. I think the second half of the movie, I don't really have problems with it, but it left me wanting more, but not in a bad way. I'd say wanting more in a good way, but I'll get to that in spoilers. But spoiler free, I think it was a really good time. If you missed it in the opening weekend, Or if you don't have money for seeing movies, I would say, hey, do what I do. See the $5 or half off if that's available at your movie theater. See it that way. I'm a broke as a joke dude. Always have been, probably always will be. You know what I mean? Unless this channel gets subscriptions or whatever. But yeah, Sinners was awesome. Had a good time. And if you stick around, I'm going to spoil it a little bit for you. And I'll get into some things that I wish had happened. So thanks for watching, and go check out Sinners right now in theaters on the big screen, because it deserves it. Okay, here we go. Spoilers. Let's bang through some quick shout outs first. I want to do some crew shout outs. I know most people are going to shout out the cast. I already shouted out the cast a little bit, but I want to shout out the crew because, look, I'm a filmmaker. I used to do a podcast called Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I don't think it was very good. I realized that I'm not a great podcaster, but what I am is a filmmaker and a person who loves movies. So New Movie Tuesdays, this is my new podcast where if I've seen something new, if it was in the theaters, I'm going to let you know on Tuesday. But this is just more of a recommends show. So I'm just kind of throwing out things I saw, and that's just what this podcast is for. I saw something new, I'm letting you know about it. If I didn't see something new, then there won't be an episode. And that being said, Sinners, we got to get through some credits because I got stuff to do. So Ludwig Göransson, I hope I'm getting that right, is the composer of this movie. The score is really good. But we do have this intersection of music, that I don't know if it's performed by the actors or not, but the main... he's not the main character, but the young character, the preacher boy, or preacher son, pastor son, I forgot his nickname, but either way, that guy, very talented young actor. If I haven't already seen him in stuff, I have a feeling I'm going to be seeing him in a lot more, because he's great. And if that's his voice and that's his performance, he's always carrying around the guitar, and he has some really great performance moments. I'm like, am I watching the beginning of a new Johnny Cash or something like that, but it's happening in this movie? This guy's got something. I'm glad he's in this movie, if that's him. I mean, it's so good. I'm like, is this one of those tricks where someone else is doing this? I gotta know. So I look forward to finding that out later. But I just want to give credit to the score is great, very creepy and very eerie. But the music, hats off to all the music in this movie. Really fun. Cinematography by Autumn Durald Arcapa, who did The Last Showgirl, Loki, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, done a bunch of other stuff. Cinematography is my favorite part of this movie. The cinematography and production design, along with the angles, the shots that Ryan Coogler chooses. I mean, every single bit of this movie visually is perfect. I think he was always good. He was always good at making the cinematic choice. Even Fruitvale Station feels a bit more indie, but still, this dude's really good at the cinematic choice. And he has achieved that. Like, he has achieved being a true cinema filmmaker, because the look of the movie is gorgeous. And again, production design. Hannah Beachler, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Black Panther, Creed, Moonlight, which I really want to see. I still haven't gotten to. Editor, Michael Schaefer, Abigail, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Quiet Place 2, Creed. So a lot of familiars from Ryan Coogler's previous movies, but dang, I'd say I love the editing too. There's so many times where we cut back and forth between time, where they're talking about something that they're about to do, and then you're intercutting between them doing it when they're preparing to fight the vampires, or when they're intercutting between the two brothers and seeing the tension is rising. Like, all that stuff is just perfect. The editing was basically as perfect as it could get. And Ryan Coogler's directing, I gotta say, again, especially the first half of this movie, that's just, I think it's the new territory. It's another time period, and I think the writing's really sharp and good. I feel like I'm in the time. It's not a movie where I feel like the dialogue could have been better. Like, this doesn't feel like this feels like what you think people sound like at the time. But this movie, I really felt like I was there, regardless of whether it's real. I just felt like I was there. The actors sold it. So that means the director sold it because he got the great cast to do it. And I gotta say, I actually really like the little legend of the musician who has powers that can draw both good and evil. However, I thought for sure that that was going to be important to the end of the movie. So here's my only real gripe with this movie is A, I didn't I thought there was gonna be more action, and instead there was more music, a lot more music from the Irish bad guy. Um, and which is fine. I'm like, if a movie's well made, I'll let a lot of stuff slide. But I wanted more violence. I wanted a lot more action between the vampires and the humans. And my problem with it is the minute we started seeing people get eaten, the movie felt like it rushed to the end, and I just felt like there was so much build up to the brothers being soldiers, and no one else is a soldier. So I just was expecting some level of Smoke, who ends up being the non-vampire brother. I was expecting him to like take charge and see him be a leader and see him be a lead these people and how to survive. There's a couple horror movie slash horror action movie tropes that I wish had happened. We got all the other ones from horror, but not the horror action tropes. I just thought we kind of rushed to the end. There was way too many vampires for there even to be a victory or survival. I really felt like the ending, when the ending battle happens, we see this army of vampires, and there's no way that our humans stood up against them for anyone to have made it anywhere at once the vampires came in. I didn't buy that. But also, I just thought there was so much setup in the movie about, we hear that the KKK is going to come, that actually this was all a ruse, that they're going to come and shoot everyone up, and then they don't show up till the morning, which is like, why would you show up in the morning? It seems like you're not going to get much of a kill count out of that, especially when you brought a whole army with you. So I didn't fully understand that, but it was cool to see Michael B. Jordan wipe him out. I'm like, hey, a little Django Unchained action, cool. But my favorite scene, I love the garlic scene because that's from the Thing. I thought this movie had a lot of the Thing build up, but just not enough vampire action, I think. And it's really the trailer. It's not the movie's fault. The trailer and also the first half of the movie sets up the promise of a lot of action. But that's not really what happens. I'm fine with the ending, but even the ending is like, oh, so the villain is going to give a monologue that lasts way too long, but also just long enough for the hero to kill the villain. And I just thought, well, how did you even get past all the vampires to stab the guy in the back anyway? So I was just kind of like, I would have happily had this be a movie that is like ends like Desolation of Smog. Like, you could have just had it build up to, okay, the vampires are starting to attack. There's some kind of dramatic exchange between a few of the vampires, but have some sense of victory, because literally once the party ends and everyone leaves, I'm just like, oh, so all the cannon fodder is leaving. I would have been excited to see the vampires figure out how to do this, but no, I just thought the second half made odd choices. But again, not. I still like the movie. I still had a good time. I was just like, I knew what I was getting. I knew what I was watching. I was like, oh, you're doing this trope, so the movie's going to go in this direction. I just felt like the second half was very familiar, and that's where the hype, well, not even the second half, is just really that once you started seeing vampires eat people, the movie, I just felt rushed to the end. And I thought there was totally another hour of movie that wanted to happen. And that's what I say. I think this movie should have been like a part 1 of 2. It should have ended with the vampires start attacking, and we get a good 20-minute struggle with vampires that also showcases the sort of soldier skill that we were promised from the brothers. I thought that would be fun. And then you could end with, oh, we're going to get you tonight. Because what's cool about the movie, what I have to shout out, another thing that works about the movie, is that the movie literally starts at the crack of dawn and you're watching the sun, rise and fall. And basically, it's a movie that takes place over 24 hours. And my favorite thing about that is that what this movie gives us is a ticking clock without ever telling us, until the vampires show up, without ever telling us what that ticking clock is that we know that once night falls, doom happens. And then once the vampires expose themselves and our wound me witch doctor woman lets us know, yeah, they're vampires, so we just have to wait till daylight and we'll be fine. But yeah. So the whole literally watching the sun fall and rise, I thought was a cool aspect to the movie. And again, this is the director giving you the ticking clock without outwardly saying it. But if, again, like with Wolf, if you know the genre, then you can feel the tension, like, oh, this is going somewhere. Because I distinctly felt it when the smoke, what I liked, again, in storytelling through colors and costume, Smoke wore blue and Stack wore red, so you kind of knew who was who. And also it's letting you know which one of them is going to become the vampire at the end of the movie. And even in the post-credit scene, it's Stack wearing red again. But even when we see Smoke go see his wife and visit the grave of his son, it's very sad, but also it's just a nice character touch. See both brothers have history, and we get a little taste of their history. I thought the setup of this movie does a really great job of feeling like a movie, feeling like a real movie that gets you to introduce to the characters that we're going to feel something for as the story goes on. But, that's where I noticed the time, is that once he went to see her, I realized, oh, it's noon, meaning we're halfway to nighttime. We're halfway to the sun being gone. Because it's right above them, the shadows are straight down. So there's such a clear sense of time in this movie that adds to the dread. And I just got to shout out to Ryan Coogler for thinking all this stuff out, or however it came to be. Like, to say yes to, if it was someone else's idea and he said yes, however that came to be, like, Ryan Coogler deserves some props. So that's just some things I noticed that were really cool in the movie. In general, for my other podcasts, I have a podcast coming out later this week called Action Movies, Storytelling Through Action. Like I said, I may have said it, I'm a filmmaker of over 17 years. I'm a director. And like I said, I was doing another type of podcast, but now I'm breaking it up. So New Movie Tuesdays will be just reactions for the regular moviegoer. Anybody could watch this. But normally what I do, what's been my bread and butter for years, is being a filmmaker, being a video editor. And my goal, my dream, is directing, and I've always studied directors. I made the award-winning short film 007, I Only Need One, and I'm very proud of that. But I just want to say, like, if you liked this, but you want more of the film analysis stuff, if you're a filmmaker especially, please like and subscribe. But also check out later this week my first episode of Action Movies, Storytelling Through Action, where I look at movies from the point of view of a filmmaker and storyteller. So if you are a young filmmaker or a young storyteller and you kind of want to get a good sense of how to look at movies, that's where I'm going to be talking about that. I'm trying to build a resource for people who, if you're a storyteller and you're looking at movies and you like, how am I supposed to understand a movie? That's what Action Movies, and also I'll have some other podcasts coming out soon as well. But for now, later this week, Action Movies, Storytelling Through Action. Like and subscribe for that if you really want to get into the head of someone who studies film and is looking at things from the point of view of someone who wants to make movies. So that's my pitch. That's what I got to say. I hope you like this review. Please give me a like and subscribe so I can make some money from this, please. So I can evolve from $5 Tuesdays. Or if not, please just enjoy this for free. So thank you very much. Have a good one, and hopefully I'll see you next time.